Okay, so a couple things that she highlighted I do want to retouch on. API Sec University, if you guys haven't done that, if you're interested in security, you really need to understand the fundamentals of API security. Highly recommend their free courses. They are free, just like I just said, and they're very informative and informational. The other one that I saw down in the far corner was the Cybercrime and Investigations conference. We are there every year, and we probably have the largest audience. So we're going to see kind of what we're going to be talking about there. You want to cut the share or the camera?
There, I gave myself less than 6 minutes to talk. So
we got plenty of time.
Thank you. So we have enough food. We can just sit here till tomorrow morning, and then we are gonna go to the office.
There it is. Okay, no problem. And okay, so I'm James Rulison. Everyone calls me JR. I've been in the cybersecurity space for over 20 years. Prior to that, I worked in network engineering and building large data centers for Concentric and EXO. One of the guys that's running around the corner, that guy right there, helped me build out some of that stuff. And we always had fun with really bad wiring jobs. I've been in cybersecurity so long that it was back when F5 and Cisco lied about their throughput of their firewalls because they were putting the same data packet size across and not showing any kind of variation, which if you don't know, that's how the real internet works. So what is SpyCloud? And we're going to be kind of going through the presentation. You're probably all going to get a little bit afraid after watching this presentation, and it's kind of no joke. So what is SpyCloud and what is identity threat protection? Has anyone here heard of the term sock puppet? There's a couple yeses, good. If you haven't, no worries. We're going to talk about it in a little bit more in detail. Everyone's heard of phishing, and everyone's heard of spear phishing. Okay. And what about malware? You all know malware, right? And different malware, and we all know breaches, correct? Okay. So what is the mission of SpyCloud? Our mission is to disrupt cyber crime. And a lot of that time means that we're going to go out of our way to work with individuals or work with companies to disrupt that, which means that we do everything from responsible disclosures. Has anyone heard that term before? Responsible disclosure means that we have come across a breach that they may not be aware of. Just worked on one the other day with some of our team, and we do about 166 responsible disclosures per year. A lot of them are not necessarily in the US, which means that you're not seeing massive publications about it because the laws in that country might differ from the ones in here. All right. So it really comes down to kind of protecting your enterprise, which means your employees or stats, protecting your customers. And then finally, our third kind of silo is investigations. So we're going to go a little bit more into that. And you can see kind of down on the bottom, we've got kind of a little bit of a product list of what we got going on. We have, automated attack account takeover prevention. We have ransomware, continuous zero trust, fraud, all that fun stuff, and supply chain. Now, supply chain is not the same for us as it is for a lot of other kind of supply chain type companies. If you're thinking supply chain, you might think, oh, they're going to show us some critical vulnerabilities, some CVEs. That is not what we do. The supply chain that we're doing is monitoring your vendors' online identities to see what might be a problem for you. So those are kind of what we manage in the supply chain. The other one is insider threat detection. We have kind of PC'd or politically corrected the term. We now call it inauthentic user, whereas before you might have heard the term DPRK actor. Have you heard that term before? Okay, so the question is how do we get that data and how much is it? So everyone kind of pulls the general data breaches from known different hacker organizations and known different hacker channels, and that data is easy to accommodate. Has anyone here familiar with Have I Been Pwned? Okay, yeah, Have I Been Pwned has about 57 million records, I think, or billion records. Just to be clear, we're about up to 1 trillion records, so it's a massive size difference in the data. They also don't look at phishing data, and they also don't typically look at malware data. So on the surface, we get that from the public locations, and then in the middle, and then on the lower cases, it's a little bit different. And how we're getting those kind of data is we're embedding ourselves with actual real people where they are having online personas, embedding them into these unethical, hacker communities, and we have these personas that we're using to get access to them, and we're constantly working the numbers and improving as we walk by with a new banner. There we go. Improving how we can communicate with them. So that means that we could have, we might possibly burn one of our own identities, one of our own personas to get us deeper into an organization. So all the people in that kind of group are real hardcore cybercrime investigators. They're former FBI, former CIA, former NSA. So those type of individuals make up our core, what we call our labs team, and they spend their times in investing in trying to get into those different organizations. And we do this all over the world. And there's a reason why some companies who are trying to do it with AI are not having success. It's because if for instance, Najib, he has a completely different political belief or religious belief than I do, and he's in another country, well, then he knows those kind of things, those holidays and those kind of information. AI doesn't necessarily pick up those nuances. And with a live person or a person that's in that region, we're better able to obtain that kind of information. Does that make sense? I'm seeing some head nods. Good. And then there's also like the offline. What is the offline? This is the groups that are trying to sell the data, and we've infiltrated them too, and we try to social engineer that information out, possibly by trading them bad data. They don't know it's bad data, but it's, we're giving them something to get something out of them. And so that's how we get that last amount of data. So as I kind of mentioned before, we're coming up on 1 trillion records, and it gets scarier from there. So this is actually kind of what credentials exposure is kind of our dashboard kind of looks like. This is telling you kind of like, how many of your organization might have frequently reused passwords. How many of your organizations might have exposed employee email addresses, infected employees, total records on the network, where those records are coming from. All of these elements are correlated across like that huge data set, and we can narrow it down. So we can say, is this the last 90 days? Is this the last 7 days? Or is this all time? Or is this the last year? Once we get into those kind of accounts and information, we go through and we can provide like, hey, these are the URLs or the applications that might be exposed by this compromised credential. And we list that and we show you how many of the emails are associated with that for your organization. Was it on the watch list, meaning you have an email that you're wanting us to specifically track? How many total records? We have another one at stat. It's not on this list. We'll show it in a minute. It's called number of sightings. What does that mean? Well, number of sightings is how often are we seeing that data come up in our records? Why might that be interesting? Well, if we may not have that password, but if there's a bunch of sightings for that particular email coming up, well, then we might be able to say, hey, this particular person might become a target for spear phishing because their data is out there, their email data is out there, who they are might be out there. And if there's a past or old record associated with them, they've got more information to do that, that spear phishing, or to be able to social engineer back into your company, right? So everyone in here, I'm assuming, has been on the internet longer than 10 years, correct? Okay, good. So if you've been on the internet longer than 10 years, I guarantee you, we have data on you because somebody has lost data for you. Whether that's, Under Armour, which just lost it a couple weeks ago, which my wife was exposed by that. Luckily, she used, huh? Funny. That is very funny, Tin. I didn't think about it, but I'm glad you did. So we're keeping it PC, Tin, keeping it PC. just her email was it was exposed in that because that's what they lost, is they lost their customer user base along with emails, but they didn't lose any passwords. Okay, but that still provides information on that person to tie in, and we're going to get to some more data on it. But what is kind of like that holistic identity, and why am I keep kind of coming back to that term? So as Tim kind of, just make a joke about my wife, but what if she was working for another organization and that password was compromised over there? Is it possible she might have used that password somewhere else? Yes. Okay. So this holistic approach takes all of your data that we can do. We have a system where we can pull in and connect it with other emails and other information where we have tied your data to it. So now we're getting a list of all of your passwords from years past. So the company's been around since 2016, but anyone want to take a guess? Or 2016. Does anyone take a guess how old the data we have in our data set? 2009. So 2009 is the oldest records within the system. And we only started really doing this in 2016. So again, it's that current work, that holistic identity. If you are an IT or SecOps and you have somebody who's got a compromised credential and you pull up that and do kind of an investigation in our system, the thing is you might not be thinking about is, what if that person is an engineer and has a GitHub on their personal GitHub, and they have put work engineering information on that personal GitHub? Now you have potentially a loss of important data or applications. And this holistic approach gives you the ability to see that they have a GitHub. So you might be able to go, hey, sorry to bother you. We know we just told you to change the password, but we also noticed that you had a GitHub. You don't have any corporate stuff on there, do you? Because that is now compromised. So then you can work with them to resolve that. Everyone still conscious? Good. So again, this breaks down to what we like to call, one of my friends likes to call it the three-legged stool, but it's really all three pillars of what we kind of do. We have the enterprise protection, which again is that workforce threat where we're checking your emails, we're monitoring it. Then you got the consumer protection where you have the end users that are, maybe you have like an Amazon, or you have a company that's working with e-commerce customers. Those type of customers, you're going to want to check for fraud, right? And then you have the cyber crimes investigations. And we're not allowed to say who all of our particular customers are, but I can tell you right now, we are allowed to say the government agencies, CIA, NSA, FBI, they all use us. Okay? So automation anywhere. So this is kind of like, if you wanted to integrate with us, everything is available to you. We also have, if you don't see it up here, you also have the ability to do what's called SpyCloud Connect. And SpyCloud Connect allows you to simplify the actual connection process. So you can pull it into any SIEM SOAR EDR that you might be interested in. And there's a lot of them that we already are working on that's not on this. This is, no, it's got most of them. No, there's a couple that it's not on there. But chances are, if you need it, we probably already have it in the workflow. Before I go there, I wanted to go on the automation side. Sorry. If you are using Okta or a single sign-on solution like Active Directory, Okta, whatever, we have automated remediation tools that tie into those systems. So if you have an on-prem Active Directory, that's the best possible solution for our platform. It doesn't install on the Active Directory directly. It just installs on an admin machine. And what it does is when your passwords get compromised within our system, it goes and checks the password for you to make sure the hash matches and everything. And if it does, you have an option. You can say they must change their password on the next login, or you can send them a notification that we need to have you change your password, or you can you as the IT director can manually change that. Okay. We also, on the automation side for that Active Directory, if it's on-prem, we also have the ability to do that what's called ID link, which takes that holistic approach, and it's going to take all of those different usernames and passwords you might have had in the past, and it's going to tie it to it. So if you try to type in one of those old passwords, it's going to say, sorry, no joy, you got to change it, pick something else. And finally, you have the ability to select what's called fuzzy logic. Why? Because I can't believe it, but a lot of people do, like, I work for OWASP.com, or 123 is the password. And then they go, oh, I got to change the password again, 456, and that kind of fuzzy logic is important. So we do 1,000 iterations on every password. Okay. Okay. So if you guys are interested, I'm going to put this up kind of like contact sales for any questions, but I kind of wanted to go here. There is some demo pages on our website that you can actually go in and utilize. And if you need the link, I don't know why it's not on there, but I'll get it for you. And you can run some demos of the product yourself. The problem with some of the data, people looking at the data, they go, oh, well, this is kind of old. They don't understand that there's other ways to relook at that same old entry and find out if it's been re-accessed, find out if it's been re-exposed, and find out if it's been updated on the passwords. And finally, I really want to talk about, and this, by the way, we're going to be doing a full demo. This is just the slides, and that's why I'm trying to kind of hurry through them. So we're going to be at RSA. We have a nice large booth. It's a privatized booth, which means it has some nice white screen glass on there so nobody else can see what we're going to show you. Because I can tell you, when I started at this company, it was really a lot of fun. They get you set up and they get you into the portal, and then they give you 15 minutes of alone time to cry. They go, here you go, put your emails in and enjoy. It's not fun. It is kind of like surprising how much data has been breached and is out there. So obviously we're going to be there. We are giving away some cool lock picks and stuff, so hopefully we see you there. And that's just the presentation. Any questions before we move on into like the real world demo? I'm looking around the corner. Okay, good. Got it.
First thing, situational password you're comparing with identity, forcing the system to check this?
No, not with an actual Active Directory. There's a DLL that Microsoft has that we can call to check the password without actually hitting the brute force limit. If it's an intra or if it's a Okta, it'll check the one and that's it. There's no way to check the multiple. You can run it in an API mode where you query our database before they make the password change, saying, hey, is this a valid, is this not hitting that? And then make the change, like, okay, this is a good one for them to use, change it. And how many people here still think it's good to change your password every 3 months or every month? Good, I'm glad, because it's not. The more you change it, the more chances it is it's going to get out there, and the more chance you're going to go back to something you already know. Okay. So this is actually the source catalog, and this is kind of showing you where our data is coming from and some of the records. The total records for this particular instance is like 66 billion. But that's not the full set, and that's only specific, I think, to the total data breaches. Total sources, 78,000 for these. I think that's kind of mild. And you can see here with the different malware sources, 31,000 different malware sources, 4,600 different phishing sources, 41,000 breaches. And you can see the total records behind that, right? So this one has 60 billion. That one has almost 4 billion. That's got 34 million. That's got 2 billion on the end or more. Yeah, a lot more. But so you get the idea. The number of records are interesting. And what I like to do in here is you can actually go in here and see, like, over the last 30 days, what's upticking. Did you see it? I'll jump back to all time. Last 7 days, malware, phish, breach, right? Those ones are going up, right? 30 days. But you notice this combo list, and the phish is still, less than 1%. But if you start looking at the micro transactions of it, the phishing is going up. Why? Do we all know why? Easiest, but why is it easy now? AI. right? So people are writing fish kits, you know, with their AI. What's even worse about them? Do you know? The scary part about them, when you click on it and say it says you need to relog into your Google account, it's going to show you a login that looks exactly like Google's login account with the right URL because it's an actual JavaScript box that's writing that. And what's worse, it's logging you into Google on the back end the way you're supposed to. So it looks like you're logging into Google, and when it's done, you're logged into Google, but they just got your password. And that's kind of stuff that you have to continue to worry about. I have a couple things in here that are kind of fun that I think Marion back there will actually laugh at. So we're going to jump really quick to supply chain. Okay. So I have some general health and hygiene. And again, remember, supply chain for us is really like how much identity or what is the identity protection for the companies that you're dealing with, whether that's Salesforce, Dell, Concentrix, Microsoft. Oh, wait, there's OWASP. So I put OWASP in here so you can see. I also have got Okta in here, Slack, ISC2 is in here for your viewing, Cloud Security Alliance, and first.org. First has got like nothing, but you can see like the breach index and any malware, and OWASP has got 30, and the most recent one has been November 19th. I'm going to guess it was probably a researcher who went, oops. But the funny part is you know, we got the information and you can go into it. Now, if you pull this up for any one of these, and we're on a VPN and a very slow internet in here, so. What? That's not ours. We're using Cloudflare. So you can see like in the last 7 days, no malware. So their scores going down. You can see the graph overall showing any signals. Is that information going up? Combo list, nothing. So that list looks good. If I go over last 30 days, man, this VPN is slow. Now we're starting to see some information. We see exposed information in a breach with 5 different total sources. If you pull this open, you can copy it and look at it if you need to put it into a report. The good news is when you're looking at our supply chain, it's not going to show you anyone's password. So it's going to keep that information obscured. A lot of times it will even obscure part of the email, depending upon what the data comes in. If it looks like it's not tied to an actual corporate account, like it's a Gmail, it's going to obscure it. Okay. But this allows you as a vendor to kind of keep track of your customers or the companies who sell to you or the ones that might have direct access to your system, right? How did the what was it, the Delta breach happen? It ended up coming through a supply chain. What was there's several of those type of attacks where it's coming around on that side attack, right? They're going after you by trying to get one of the vendors that work with you. And this allows you to kind of monitor those and get to see kind of quickly like what's going on in that environment, right? You know, because obviously, you know, if Salesforce has got some sort of data breach and you're seeing an uptick in the graph in the last 7 days, you're going to want to reach out to them and find out, hey guys, are you aware of this?
I have a question. How did you get the database information? Is that some kind of, you have
It's our database.
It's your, so
it's our own intelligence. It's about 1 trillion records total. It's one of the largest data lakes. It's the largest data lake of this data on the planet. So of this type of data, of this dark web type of data, yeah. Yeah. Well, correct. There could be somebody running a privatized one that's, you know, doing it for hacking and stuff. I don't think they're going to have this many records because they're going to probably cut it off. They're going to probably be looking for something more actionable, more recent. I don't know if they'll hold the whole thing. Whereas we're looking at it as creating an entire identity around a single individual. They might not be doing that, right? So also this takes up a lot of storage. That's a lot of money to kind of hold that kind of data lake if you're trying to do cybercrime with it. But you never know. Bitcoin is paying out a lot. So let me jump. Right. Let me dump down here real quick. Okay, so I've got a couple of example organizations. Now we decided to go with the dark because it seemed to be easier to read. Can everyone see the screen a little easier? Okay, cool. All right, so I have here example. Oh, except I just noticed it's cutting it off on the side. I don't want to do that. That'll work. That easier to see? Okay, cool. All right, so this is like kind of your dashboard when you get into the portal. And the portal, come on over or find a seat. And what this is doing is you have a couple of different options. If you were starting with us and you wanted to add like your domain or you wanted to have a specific what we call enterprise account protection, I think actually just change the name to workforce protection. You'd have to register a domain with us. And what does that mean? It means that we need to make sure you say you are who you say you are. You can't just monitor someone's domain at random because that would be bad. You can't just throw in like USA, whitehouse.gov as much as you might want to. It's not something we're going to give you access to. So you have to get it registered and approved. And once it's approved, it populates into your domain watch list. Now, there's a couple other things that are often included in this, and we're going to show a couple on the left-hand side here. So on that watch list, we have domains, and you also have emails, and then you also have IP addresses. So if for instance, you're a state-run organization, you know your IP blocks, you can just add them, and you can use full like slash for networking. So you can go 192.168.0./16/ whatever you want. You can put those slashes in there, and we can monitor those IPs for you. It may not be something you want to see, but we can put it in here for you. The other thing is on the email side. So companies, they're getting the hackers and the dark web community, they're getting more and more sophisticated. So what are they doing now? Well, instead of attacking this guy over here, I'm going to find out that this is a relative and they've got a child, and that child is obviously maybe playing some sort of game that they might want to hack or use a cheat on. And if that machine gets infected and they find that, they're going to use that potentially to get something to this computer over here so that they can get access to this person's data. So they're now coming at you on the side. So the email protection, and if you pop any email in here, it will literally send them an email and it'll say, hey, SpyCloud is asking to monitor your email. Do you agree to this? And if you agree to it, then it'll populate in it. My entire family is in there. So I know if any of my kids get compromised. I know if my sisters get compromised. I know if anyone in my wife's family. This actually paid off about a month ago when my father-in-law got phished on somebody trying to steal his Social Security. So it popped up right away, and we were able to work with Social Security and get that remedied very quickly. So we call this we have another thing. It's called VIP Guardian, and the VIP Guardian is very similar to the email watch list, but this would allow your C-level person to put those emails and information in there themselves, and then it still sends that email, but then they get to monitor it, and it's not something that the IT department gets to monitor. It's privatized to just that VIP's view, so he can see what's going on for his family and potentially his connections. Okay, going back up here, we're going to go to that domain names. So in here, you can select which one you wanted. You can see last discovery for this was yesterday. You can see any corporate records or information. If you needed to add some, you can, or you can delete them all. You don't have to go to what's called that domain watch list or compass. If you just click on the domain name, it will open up and give you kind of a view of the records and information. And you can see corporate records, infected employees, infected user records. And then you see over here on the right, you have a filter, and you can also see that you can export the data. On the right-hand top side, you see show passwords. Of the passwords that we have, 90% of them are cracked. And before we move on to, kind of showing this data, does everyone think that two-factor authentication will save you in this instance? No, it won't. If I ever really wanted to be a bad person, I would never have to pay for a Netflix account again. Their sessions last forever, and we have them, right? Because all that cookie data we have. All right, so looking at like the information here, I wanted to click on the filter, and we see here the severity. You can see here we have all of them: critical, high, informational, and email only. I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. So then the email only is kind of like the lowest of the low, and I'm going to show you that real quick. So in the email only, you can see that it's just been picked up. It could be this one says 2026. It was probably, it shows it came up in some sort of supporter database. The question is this something that you need to worry about? Well, it depends. If you look at the raw data, you can see the information that we have now. We have just the email, we have the username, we have potentially the domain name. So, and we have the last time that it was currently in the records, right? So on itself, it's not really that big of a deal, is it? It's not really concerned. But you might want to start watching it, because if it comes up in a combo list over and over again, which those sightings I was talking about earlier, when these numbers start populating to higher numbers, that means that somebody might be being targeted as a spearfish. So you kind of want to watch those people in your organization. Again, this is example data, which is why there's nothing in sightings, but we'll look at some other stuff in a minute. So if I wanted to go and now I'm going to add a little bit more information, right? So I'm going to go informational. Okay, well now I've got one, and it's got 2 sightings, which means it's in the database or in our data lake twice. Okay, if you click on that, it's going to show you when and what dates and time and in what breach, or if it was a malware. So it's going to give you that data and show you that it has those 2 sightings. Now it's also going to, if I go into the raw data, it's going to tell me, oh, I've got the email. I've now got, a password, which is up here. I can see like a full name. I've now got a phone number. I've now got, account sign-ins and, another, information down here, as well as the last time it was published, right? So now I'm gathering up additional information. So this might help me if I wanted to start trying to do social engineering, right? So I can start looking in and trying to dive a little bit deeper by contacting the company and say, oh, I lost my phone. It got stolen. I need help getting my 2-factor authentication in. You can start working that angle because you have more and more information on it. Okay? Going to the third level, high. High, now we're going to see a lot more sightings. You can see that we're getting more information on the usernames. If I pull into the raw data, you can see now there's a lot more. You see the city, the state, where they're located, the IP addresses. You can see the usernames. And then on top of that, we can see that we have the password in plain text. So now we have a lot more information on this individual. And did you see here? It was phished. So this is all the way, by the way, again, example data.
Can I ask, when you say it's phished, like how do you know it's phished? Because it's phished off of their computer.
Right. So the phish kit there's things called phish kits, and they use these phish kits, and then they pull those back, and when they're selling it, they're saying, hey, I used this phish kit and I got this information and I'm selling it, or I'm trying to provide it. Then we social engineer that data out of them, and we know that it's coming from a phish because there's no malware.
So you social engineer the entire thing that they're trying to sell, and they're going to sell it to someone else.
Or they're trying to use it to get into a more elite group, so they're providing it, and we might already be in that elite group.
Okay.
So then we get it free from them from that way. The difference, real quick, on a phish, or easy way to see between a phish and a malware, is malwares tend to actually give you a log ID. They create their own log IDs. Do you know why? Because when they're running large malware things, they want to keep track of computers. So if the computer gets hit multiple times, they want an individual log ID for each of those infections. So they're trying to keep that information so that they can keep it and know where it is themselves in their own data. So it's funny that now, because they're getting more technical at putting their own information and putting that information in, we're able to use that to do more tracking and stuff on our own. So let's go to that. That's critical. So now we go to the critical, and we got to go to severity. We want to go to critical. Oh yeah, I forgot there's no high critical on here. We'll see if I can find that in a minute on another record. Okay, I got it on this one though. Okay, so let's go to infected employee records, and now we got the critical filter going. We got a password. We know what IP they were going to. We can see the infected date. We can see the published date, and review the raw data. And now you can see even more. We see that, oh, they have Microsoft Defender. Is everyone aware that malware has changed in the last 5-10 years, right? You know it's not persistent anymore. Malware stays on your system within milliseconds, and it's gone within like 150 milliseconds. It's there to zip in, zip out, and take the data with it. They don't want a persistent session because antiviruses will find it. So there's no reason to do that because they want you to go back to that website and get infected again. So they're now super quick and super fast at getting that data in, getting the data out before most antiviruses or malware detection even picks it up. One of the best things you can do to prevent some of this stuff for the home is probably run your own like Pi-hole, DNS server, and make sure you're not going to any bad sites. There's several good lists that you can pop into Pi-hole to not go to the accidental Walmart page, the WALLMART or whatever, some of the fat finger ones, you can also see now the screen display resolution, and I'll bring this up later in when we get to inauthentic users, but screen resolution becomes an important key field when you start looking at that. You can see like now, besides all this other information, we've now got that infected machine ID I told you about before. You can see the infected path was only in memory. You can see the host name of the machine, Denver PC. You can see it was a Windows 11 Pro. That's a bad sign because if you see it's a Pro, it's generally a corporate machine. It's generally not a home machine. When you see Windows 11 Home, you're like going, okay, that's a company that's allowing personal devices to be allowed on the network. Is everyone here not allowing personal devices on the network? Yeah, not allowed, but how many people got Slack or something on their phone? Yeah, and by the way, we do get mobile data as well. So it's hard to kind of defend everything. Let's see. The crux of it is, right, is that for phones, nobody wants to take this on anymore. Unless you're Verizon. Verizon has the ability to give all their employees a cell phone for corporate use only, but they don't. But they had the ability. I only say that, by the way, if you guys don't know, I'm a former Verizon employee. There's 3 of them right there, another one over there. So a lot of us used to work for Verizon at one point or another in their tech and security side and content delivery. Okay, so you can see from the infected records that you've got a lot of different information. You can see the different logins. You can see the different pages. And that becomes a problem, right? Because you're like, okay, these people have access to potentially important data. Infected records. This is going around and looking more specifically at the target URLs, right? So if I was looking at accounts.example.com or .org, that would be something you'd want to manage, monitor. This gets into where you're starting to get into close to the fraud kind of detection, right? So if I'm running, looking for people logging into signin.myecommerce.com, and somebody who might have a bunch of sightings on that, or may have some other information, you want to make sure that you have that kind of data and knowledge in your brain, so you can go, oh, these people might be committing fraud. I'm going to jump back real quick because I did forget I wanted to show one thing on this one. Oh, it's not there. Where was it? Oh, it's on Compass. That's right. I'll get to there in a second. Okay, so from here you got this thing. It's called compromised machines, compromised devices. And what compromised devices allows you to do is it's looking specifically at those malware accounts. And you can see here that we're, again, obscuring that information. But if you needed to like jump in and kind of look a little bit more on this, you could do what's called graph. And so you can open up, anybody familiar with Maltego? So you can open up kind of a Maltego kind of view and see those connections. And then you can zoom in on any one of these areas. And then for instance, like you're like, oh, this is, maybe I want to get more information on one individual element. You can actually pivot on any of these elements. So if I was looking, okay, this is actually the domain we're interested in, I could go in and you can see all the data comes up on the left-hand side. And if I needed to add a pivot on here, I could add additional pivots and look at that information and dial it in. Or I can include additional information, right? So if I go back to the exit the graph real quick and go back. I want to open it actually. I screwed that up. Let me go back and graph. So you have the ability in the graph that you can add data. So if I wanted to add data to the set, I can. And then that means I can include additional emails to see how they might be correlating or cross-connection. Okay. That starts to get into the investigation side of this. And we're going to get there in a minute. But we're going to go real quick back to this guy real fast. And we're going to go to workforce over here. The reason why I'm jumping between two portals is we're actually combining this one into this one. And so this gives you the ability to kind of see the same information, but you have to click. It's not, it's missing, in my opinion, a few things. It still has the sightings and information there. You can still view the data record and all that information, but it's a little bit more harder to pull up information like how to graph it, etc. And again, you can see the same data. This is all the same data we were looking at. And you can look at infected users. And then if I go back to that workforce overview, you can see commonly used passwords. 83% password reuse. Again, it's an example data. Come on. It's not that high on everybody else. But it is surprisingly high when you get into companies that are like related to sports. How many of them use the sports team name as part of their password? How their IT has not blocked that as a you can't use this word blows my mind. Okay, where else do I want to go? Oh yeah, endpoints. So this shows you the devices. So this is kind of what we were looking at over here in the compass, showing this kind of data. This is going into do the same thing. So you can, let me move our faces out of the way. And you can see whether it's open, closed, you can go in and change it. So if you were managing this and you needed to resolve this, you could. So you can see I've already talked to this person, already resolved it. I don't want to see it again in my data, close it. Then if it pops up again with a new infection, then you can rework it. The applications again show you what applications are being targeted or what URLs are being harvested out of there. And by the way, real quick, don't use Google Passwords Manager for passwords, okay? Because it's not secure at all. It's another one where we go, yeah. So then you can see the company names. You can see like a Hotmail, any application names, etc. And that kind of goes over, like you can see like logins, obviously Microsoft. You got your Amazon login. You got your accounts.google. So that information kind of gets like worrisome when you see a lot of infected users or information in there.
Another question. So you got a list of people's usernames and whatnot. Is there any way that you would identify their role in the company? If you were a sysadmin and hey, you're a high value target, well,
Right.
I get into your account, I can pivot. So I was wondering, do you have that information somewhere about the row of that?
The role is not listed in there. Okay. But you, because of the APIs, you could tie it into your own, probably like a Jupyter notebook. And then you can tie in and say, hey, call this Zoom Info API. And Zoom Info will tell you their role in the organization.
So you have to do extra stuff.
Because we're not paying for that database, right? So, but if you wanted to do that, you very much could. Okay. We've already kind of talked a little bit about supply chain, and I mentioned before that this is, kind of a nice tool to be able to look at the hygiene of the people that you're working with, and that's all it really is, right? You have to still reach out to them. It's not replacing anything, and it's only to go along with maybe if you are using like some sort of questionnaire or something like for your suppliers, you could use this in conjunction with that questionnaire to talk to them about what they've got going on. Okay. Now we're going to go to investigations, and I got to go back to workforce real quick and grab one. Actually, I'm going to go to infected employees. There we go. Now the glasses got to come off. My age. There it is, infected machine ID. So I'm going to take this data, I'm going to pivot, and I'm going to go into an investigation. So the investigation is scary powerful. It is ridiculously powerful, and we work with law enforcement agencies, kind of the thing we don't talk about enough. And you can find our names in a couple of different published articles about different human trafficking takedowns, where we were instrumental in helping them find those individuals. We've been instrumental in finding some people on the FBI's most wanted list. So we've done that kind of work as well. So we do those things generally pro bono. We're not trying to have some company pay us for that. We work with multiple organizations across the globe, specifically in the human trafficking and any kind of child endangerment, to put those people behind bars. It's not something I have to deal with too much because I work generally with the enterprise, but even I have ran into bad actors who are utilizing specific game sites to lure children into sessions and stuff, and that kind of stuff disgusts the crap out of me, and it's really scary how blatant it is on a lot of different sites. It's not just the Roblox of the world, it's other sites too. And this tool allows us to kind of start diving into that because it gives us the ability to see like onion sites, tourist sites, that site. When we start seeing those kind of sites tied to their accounts, it's generally a sign of, okay, there might be more here. Okay. So we're going to pull that domain in, and we have about 19 things to start off with on your asset type. And yes, bank account number is one of them. If I click on that and I was typing, you can see that it's clear. If I go into like, say, social security number, oop, wrong one. And you start typing numbers, it's obscured, right? So we do obscure it. So if you're having to type it in, you don't have to worry about someone looking over your shoulder and trying to find that information. Only on this one, because it's on an example. I'm not in a live environment. You're good. It's good catch though, yeah. But yeah. Infected machine ID, which will also be in the URL. All right, so it's pulling it up. It's going to give you information, and it's going to show the target domains on the right-hand side. It's going to show the emails associated with it. And it's going to show you additionally any kind of plain text passwords. Again, this is example data, so nobody goes screenshotting. But you can see that information, and you can see the URL or usernames, as well as any kind of other data or information. You see here down here that it has the ability to pivot. So if I go up and I look at, say, hey, this particular email up here that's got 49 records associated with it, I want to pivot on that. And then it says down here, one pivot selected. If I select that pivot, it now adds that data to my record. And we saw it went from like 100 something to now 596 records. You can still see the information. Now you're getting this little bullet. This is flagged as an interesting subdomain. So we're trying to give you kind of information like, hey, this might be something you might want to look at. Down below, you see all the plain text passwords tied with the emails and the source type and the display resolution. So when we're investigating what we call inauthentic users, I don't use the investigation tool in here. I use a Jupyter Notebook. Is everybody familiar with Jupyter Notebook? Okay, Jupyter Notebook is a method of running a Python script and creating and keeping it contained into different slide planes. It's very, very intuitive. It's very great. I have it up here running on the background. I can show you right here. This was an infected machine we were looking at earlier. You think it's been hit a few times? What this is, and I will be glad to tell you what this is an actual malware person. They are running a malware farm. And when you're running a malware farm, you tend to infect yourself. Okay, so this has been, they infected themselves. This becomes like, this can't be shown in this tool. Why? Because this tool maxes out at 5,000 records. This is over 66,000 records. Okay, and we can see like all the Luma 2 stealers and where they're coming from. And if I was to analyze it, you know, pull it up in analysis, you can see all the different infected machines, all the different infected times, which goes on and on. All the different country codes, one US, you can see this person may, you know, it may say US, but that doesn't mean it is. And then you can see here this display. Anyone see anything wrong with the display? Is it really 4K? Look at the number. 2560 by 1440. It's 2K. 2K. This resolution starts making me believe it may actually be in the US. Why would I say that? When I'm looking at inauthentic users or people from other countries, they like, for instance, I found one recently for a company, a large semiconductor company, and they were an official employee there. They had already been employed, but they got themselves infected with a malware, and I got that login. And then when I started investigating the login, this became a really weird number, like 1915 by 817. Why would it be that way? They're virtual machined. They changed the aspect ratio of the window so that they could read it better in their virtual machine. So that kind of information starts becoming key when you're looking for those inauthentic users. So it's important that we log that data. The other thing is look at the IP addresses, right? When I pull up an IP address and it says it's in Diamond Bar, California, which is not too far from here, it's right around the corner from my house, and it says it's in Diamond Bar, California, and then you look at like who's the IP provider, and it's not Spectrum, it's not SoFi, it's not any of those, it's some weird hosted company. Well, that's a red flag. You start going, okay, why is that information there? So you look at that and you go, okay, what is on there? What else is that IP address shown up on? Then you can do everything from like looking for just that IP within the data, which there's plenty there, but sometimes there's not. And in one case, I did not have the data there, but I was like, okay, something's going on. This looks like a bare metal hosting provider. And then, so what do? You go to Google, and you actually have to go to Google. You can't type it in on the Google bar. You have to go to google.com and put that IP address in. What came up was a document that Google released themselves about inauthentic users, and that IP was used as a virtual machine for logging in to somebody else's system and they were an inauthentic, or in this case, a North Korean actor. But Google released that. So now I'm like, okay, why would they use the same machine again? Who knows? Easy access, or maybe they didn't know and the other guy used it before. So watching those kind of like aspect ratios become kind of key. Jumping back into the actual investigations tool. So, when you're looking at all this information and stuff, it's kind of cool, but we're going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to grab this application and we're going to open up a new window. So I'm going to just go, oops. I'm going to go here and I'm going to go open in a new tab. And I'm going to look at it slightly differently. I'd love to show you my favorite customer, but we're not allowed to do that. Give it a second. It will load, I promise.
Ask a quick question.
Sure.
So for Investigate, are you also able to use the IP to kind of reverse engineer other social media names or username accounts to
Yes.
link that up?
Yes. We tie those together, and we'll look at that in just a minute. It's called ID Link, and I'll pull it up and show you. So now we're going to go on that target URL, that target domain. I'm going to leave it. Actually, I will go to 25. So I'm going to look at only 25s, which means machines that have malware on them. Okay. And it comes up and it says, oh, there's, what does it say? 169 records. Okay. So we have these great filters down here, and these filters are awesome, but they kind of limit you from looking at the data to one specific kind of view. So I'm going to show you another way to look at the data. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to graph this data. So now I can just see, here's the connection and here's all the different ways that we link it. These are going to be like passwords, you have different infected machines. I am not a fan of this graph layout. I hate it. So I always switch it to sequential. So it's a little bit easier for me to read and see. There's a key. It shows you what all these are on the left-hand side, which is great, but I don't care about this. What I actually care about is the filters down here. So if I go to the filters, I'm going to set a asset type. I'm going to say log ID. Now log ID, it's different than infected machine ID. And what a log ID shows you, like how many times or what machine might have more than one login to that target domain. So if I go look at the breaches, I've now got one that's got 32 records in here. And by the way, I didn't preset that up. I just know that a lot of them are there. So I can pull the details of that, and that's going to give me another infected machine ID, one that might have far more interesting stuff on it. So we're going to go back to this. I'm going to open up another investigation, and I'm going to go to that infected machine ID. I'm going to pop that in there and investigate it. And if this was like a real set of data, I would skip to the easy button, and I'll show you that. So how many people here have to write reports for this type of stuff? Okay, a couple of you. Okay, so the cool part is we have an easy button. So what is the easy button? It's our own AI tool. And so it's going to generate a report on that data. Now our AI is running on its own bedrock. It's self-contained. Why would we not want that? Because she just showed a great list of reasons why AI is vulnerable. So this AI is self-contained, and to get access to it, you would have to crack a really pretty tight piggy bank. Even for our APIs, our APIs you have to have a whitelisted IP, and you have to renew it every so many months to make sure that your IP is still valid. That's how serious we take our security. I'm actually surprised that I have not had to go through my Okta authentication on all these again, because our sessions are timed out per like so many hours. So it quickly generates a report. It gives you a little key information about the different identities of discovery. It gives you any kind of relationship that might be popping up, any kind of notable patterns. Then it says here the data reveals several identity clusters centered around a Denver Infinity Hub and model or Madel, and then likely partners and another person that appears to be related. So in this case, that person's probably safe, right? There's nothing really crazy down here. you can look at this. This might reveal something. We have your suspicious stuff. What are they doing? They got some reward survey sites, some file sharing, and some unusual domains. They've got some licensing bodies, but nothing too crazy. So it looks like they're nobody. When you're doing this and you're looking at it generally from like, say, an accounts.domain.com, and you run into it, I generally find in here data that says up here that it's one individual running 100 different personas. And then down here, the suspicious sites are generally literally saying going to fraud, lots of banking sites, e-commerce sites, or, a lot of banking data, because they're stealing either gift cards or they're ordering something and then getting cash back, and they're pulling some sort of scam. And then it tells you that right there. Then you also get all these domains, and these domains are great, but our tool is very limited, and ChatGPT is much more active. So you can take this information and you can copy it and paste it right into your own ChatGPT and ask it to do an analysis too. And we even provide like inner documentation, some prompts if you want to run that. So going real back quick to a user, close this out real quick. There it is. Any questions? Boy, the temperature kicked up in here fast.
I am still behind. Where did you get the infected nodes information from dark web or something?
Yeah, all dark web, all the dark web. So go ahead.
And then something else, but I didn't understand. So you guys social engineering
Mhm.
the bad guys?
Thank you.
So you were doing some kind of like honeypot or?
Yes, exactly right.
Um,
How do you validate that?
I mean.
How do you know you're not selling bad data?
So that's a good question. And oftentimes we don't know, right? We've been in the business long enough to where we can tell some of that right off the bat and go, yeah, this is definitely bogus stuff. The people who work for us, when I mentioned earlier, they're all like former CIA, NSA, FBI. They've been doing this for years longer. It was really weird when I started there. There was me and a girl in the customer success team that we're starting. We were the only non-military or federal government employee to be hired on that group of 9 people. No, not unless the customer. We have only on very specific instances where our customer is asking us to buy that data. We don't buy we make it very clear we don't want to be in the game of buying data. It's not, it's just morally on the cusp of being illegal, right? So you really are walking a thin line, right? So for us, it's only at the request by a direct request from the customer. It's not something that we do. Where say a customer reaches out to us and they say, "Hey, we know we've gotten breached. Can you help us find this? Where this data got breached out of?" We help them find the credential for remediation, and they say, "Hey, can you find the data and buy it so we know it's compromised?" And then we might work with them to do that. But that's like a very rare and extreme case. We don't do that. It's not since I've been there. I haven't seen one yet.
Applications where you're encouraged to buy the data, but the people providing the data compromise it specifically for your benefit.
You mean, do we have people who help us out from time to time? Yeah, some of the hackers, are like, if it's some sort of really bad something that they know is going to cause like international incident, yeah, they will be like, here, notify the authorities. So, yeah, right now, I was talking to him about a responsible disclosure that's not good, right? So it's like you have to look at those things and go, we need to notify these people right away.
Do you have any methodologies for determining the reasonableness of data that's acquired?
Yeah, we do, and I don't know that special sauce that's done through our labs group, but they do have some ways of analyzing the data to make sure it's valid, as well as like, to give you an idea, this data is coming constantly into these channels and some of the places that we're monitoring. We are literally ingesting data 365, 7 days a week. When the Under Armour breach was notified or announced, before they even announced it, it was already in my portal, and my wife and I had already known about the exposure. It just didn't have the label Under Armour on it. You know, once they officially said yes, this is us, then we went ahead and changed it in the system to show that.
You do track when you identify that, it's like the barriers, you know, you identify a process or procedure, and then does that cause you to enhance the tracking of the data that comes from that?
Again, that's more of a labs question. I can tell you that I know when there is uptick or like, for instance, when one of the malware large groups was taken offline, right? Then we see, you know, Luma 2 Stealer, you know, or another one go up. And then we make efforts to track it because then those get modified, right? So even though we're monitoring so many thousands of different malware, every time it's modified, it's slightly different, right? So we're monitoring all those uptick, but kind of in the vein of what you're asking for, kind of like you're almost asking about trends, right? You know, kind of like how different things are trending across. I asked the labs team about, like, you know, is there any like downturns, flows, or upturns? Like, where is most of the malware come from? I'm sure Tin knows. Do you know? No, China and Russia, but not very much China. Mostly Russia. Mostly Russia. In fact, I would say that's 80 to 90% is coming from Russia. A little bit in South America, mostly in China, or mostly in Russia, and a little in China. Yeah. But on the Russian side, from the trending perspective, they have two religious holidays there that almost all malware, like changes and alterations, stop during that week of that holiday. It's like, done, taking a break, got a week off.
So to be able to be in that locations all around to gather all these information, do you guys have kind of credentials from the government that you're supposed to be? Because anyone can do that.
No,
we get flagged, right? From the
Right.
FBI, you're in that side, you're talking with the hackers, a whole bunch of sellers. It's gonna be a kind of red flag, right?
Yeah, but the way I like, again, I don't know that the special sauce, so to speak, of how they're getting through those groups. But we also have people that are in those areas, right, that are employees of our company, and so they're local and they're trying to get that same data. And they all have massive different personas, right? So they don't want to give anything out. And like I said earlier in the beginning, they often burn one of their own personas to get another one higher. Question in the back.
So the way I understood it, data mining data comes to you, hey, I have a problem, and your data help me, you say yes, and then it starts to get skewed a little. We have CIA people.
Well, let's just let's leave that out. So we mine breach data. No, the reason why we would have mentioned those people is because they're investigators, former investigators for those organizations, right? So they know how to get into the socially engineer that data out of the targeted dark web or dark hacker actors, right, or the different organizations, right? So that's the only reason why I brought that up. But breach data is not the only thing, right? We have the breach, we have the malware, we also have the phishing, and the phishing, and then what we call combo lists. And combo lists are basically, you know, people who are selling your email data in exchange across different places.
If somebody comes and pays for the combo, that's no edge.
Yeah, that's knowledge. Is that what you said? Right.
Did you not tell anybody if it's not, you keep on looking for the purpose you're falling on the ground, and somebody who knows how to hack it to fall on the ground, and you pick it up. That's no edge.
I'm not sure I'm following that one. We're not selling it. We're not paying for it. The companies that are using our platform are using the data to protect their own employees. So when they find the passwords, if their employees' credentials compromised, then they can tell their employee to change it. So that's their main use for it. The other one is fraud, the kind of fraud and protecting their consumer side, and that's again just notifying their consumer, hey, you have a password that's out on the internet. Please change your password. Example, largest streaming provider on the planet. If they have told you to change your password, we're the guys that they got it from. If you're using one of the largest technology companies in the country and they tell you to change your password, so or one of the largest online shopping sites. So those guys all utilize that type of data from us to protect their consumers.
So is your question more on the lines of like, here's this one organization, here's data that they've been able to derive. If that information is useful to another organization, is that data available for other organizations to use in that manner? Yeah, I think that's
No,
specifically
if
what,
we're commercializing the lost data, breach data, it's illegal.
right, I think that's specifically, that this is specific to your organization, this organization has that data, I think that.
Unless you have, people who have government passwords to make it.
Not in Russia, not in Romania.
No, well, let's talk about Russia. You know what?
Can you know before password IQ does similar thing with the passwords breached?
Yes, it's similar. So does how have I been pwned, right? Where you pop in your password, your username, and it shows you whether or not you've been pwned or not.
Do you monitor activity in the dark web where people are requesting that kind of data?
So that's called chatter, and we are ingesting that data, but we haven't done anything with it yet.
CY3RCon, that was a cool group a few years ago, research group. They had a very high success rate in determining what organizations would be attacked.
Yeah.
Because they're monitoring the dark web for requests for data that might be attributed.
Yes, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with it. But because of the volume of data that we're getting in, we're still developing the platform to actually analyze that. Because for instance, if you're in Seattle for whatever reason, or maybe you're Starbucks, right? Your Starbucks coffee, right? And somebody says to their friend, hey, we should go get some Starbucks, blah, blah, blah. You don't want that chatter to be, that noise to be included with it. So you have to create a filter for that kind of content. So you go, that's not important. But having something where it's looking specifically at, hey, does anyone have employee records for Starbucks? And again, that's just a random, I pulled it out of my head, company, but you get what I'm saying, that we need some way to focus that information and filter the data.
Is that a good use case for deep learning?
Yes, and we do have our own eye in doing some of that type of stuff, but it's not ready for public yet.
Everybody else on the web, where I look, especially on LinkedIn, there are hundreds and hundreds of organizations that swear their AI will do this. They have no proof. They have no even a concept of how they'll do that.
There's a couple of companies that compete against this. One of them is Recorded Futures, and they charge a lot of money for providing similar data, but it's non-actionable intel, meaning you can't actually figure out if that's a 5-year-old record or that's just recently popped up on a combo list or somewhere else, or if it's new data, because there's no way for you to test it.
Well, that's the problem. The thing that impressed me, this was more than a decade ago, is that most organizations that monitor your SOC, they're so proud when I stand up and ask them, because I'm not associating anybody, what percentage of attacks do they detect? It's around 20%. There's some exceptions to that, like Darktrace and stuff, where they do supervised learning considerably out of it. But the CY3RCon, those were ex-military intelligence people. And what they were doing is they're monitoring specific requests in the dark web. And their attack percentages were their discovery percentages are about 60%. And it's a very subtle group. I wish I knew more about how they do that. But they're doing it very much the same kinds of things you're talking about, which is monitoring the dark web for information that's leaking all over.
I'm going to give you a suggestion, and that is take the CY3 Archon and say, where are they now? And pop that into Google. Because I think I know where some of them are. Anyways, this is ID Link. So what ID Link, I'm going to try this and see if it works with this example. It may not. I might have to use a real one. It did. So you can see here that it's got 595 records. What I'm going to show you real quick is I'm going to go back to the investigations. I'm going to pop in a regular investigations, and I'm going to hit that email and just the same email address. And I'm going to hit investigate. And how many records has it got? It's got one total record. That's it. So one record. But if I go through that same investigation and I run it through ID Link is going to take that holistic view where it's going to tie information together. And you have a depth, like how deep you want to actually dive that data down. And you can see here, depth 1 only returns direct match results. It's useful to investigate both username and email usernames in your username search. Depth 2 uses direct matches from depth 1 and searches for any common identities. 3 conducts an additional search from depth 2 using the same type of identity assets. And that means it's going to look for any information that can tie to the same location, like IPs, phone numbers, etc. And then it keeps going on. So I generally don't need to go above 2, but we will pop this in. And here you can see now I've went from 1 record to 596 records. So now I'm able to get a little bit more information on this individual or this person and see how they're tied together in websites. Again, this comes back to like what you're really looking for if you're running an investigation is like, if this is your employee, it might be like, are they reusing passwords throughout the organization? Are they potentially having that corporate data stored on a GitHub or any of those type of places? So keeping that information there. From an investigation standpoint, to go back to what he said in the corner, he was talking about, do you have a state sponsorship, etc. Yes, a lot of organizations who utilize their investigation tools, they're law enforcement. They're the CHP, which, by the way, anyone knew that the CHP had a cybercrime unit? Yeah, they have 16 investigators, 2 sergeants, and a lieutenant. So why do they have that many investigators? It's not because of the freeways need cybercrime investigating. It's because they're the actual law enforcement for all small municipalities that do not have a cybercrime unit. So like for my city, I live in the city of Chino Hills. Chino Hills does not have a cybercrime unit. And so the CHP is directly associated with that. And no, I am not the Chinese, it was a spy that just got arrested today that was on KTLA. I saw that. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of funny. So yeah, not me. So the ID allows you to kind of get that lower depth of view on the platform. Any other real good questions? Go ahead.
So you're saying the employer can see what domain was breached?
So they would see their domain, obviously, because if the employer is doing it, the employer's portal is tied to just their domains.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is like, say, they say, hey, me, you had a breach in your password from underarmour.com. Would it tell them that?
Yep.
So I guess when does it get like to the privacy stuff? Like, say, for example, Ashley Madison. So now my employer knows I was Ashley Madison.
Yeah. So we do get those from data breaches. And if your data was leaked in, say, like an Ashley Madison site, it comes up and says sensitive data breach. If you look at view data, like, or go to the raw log, you can kind of figure it out. But again, we try to obscure that type of stuff because we're not in the business of tattletelling on people having adultery. That's not our job.
Right.
So
I guess the question is like just privacy for my privacy.
Yes. So if you're an employee and of say whatever company, and we see that your data is in the breach, right? It's your personal computer, but you logged in from your personal computer to some corporate thing. All of your personal information is obscured when they're looking at it. So there's no passwords visible, none of that stuff. When we're looking at the passwords that were in here, that where it said show plain password, that was only stuff that is associated with example.org or the other one that I had in there, which is also a fake company. But yeah, so any real passwords like your Google accounts, not showing up in there. Any other real questions real quick?
Are you guys in any way related because of your question? Palantir?
Not that I'm aware of.
Palantir, Brent, good company, they don't have marketing people. What they do is they help law enforcement organizations develop databases, which in the fine print they own. So over time, Palantir, and I have huge respect for them. I've been watching them for decades. They've developed an amazing amount of information. Quiet. I wonder about Multigo. Multigo going to be Palantir too?
Yeah, I don't know. Multigo does work directly with us. Like we work with them. Most of any of their data, like CrowdStrike, like if they're kind of like data breach and passwords, that's all coming from us. There's several other companies that resell our data. We generally are more low profile. We're just recently trying to get a little bit higher profile. So yeah, it's only recently that we've kind of like stepped up the game. We've gone from, I don't know, like 100 and some odd employees to 260 employees over just the last year. We're based out of Austin, Texas, and if you ever do get out there, you got to go to our office. It's pretty freaking cool. It's an old movie theater. So I'm going to do one more ID link on the investigation just for fun. For the guys that formerly worked with me, you'll get a good laugh out of this. So we're going to do it. I'm going to do an ID, or first actually I'm going to do an investigation. Let me do it this way. So if I go Jay Rulison, and all my passwords that are going to be in here that you're going to see are all changed anyways, so we're not going to see too much. And I don't think you'll see anything on this one, but it's the ID link, you'll see it. So if I go and put my old password for my company that no longer exists, so no one has to get worried about getting data because it doesn't exist, and I click investigate, you can see here that I've got 5 records. All of them are, some breach from some, he shows you on the left, LinkedIn, nothing crazy. Does everyone remember Dub Smash when you used to be able to make the funny little videos? Yeah, so apparently I used my corporate one on that. Didn't realize I did that, but whatever. So then I take the same password and I put it into ID, or the same email, and I put in ID link, which becomes much more interesting because it's going to pull up a bunch of companies that everyone in the back is going to know. And so I'm going to set this to email. Oop, not phone, email. And then to depth. And next thing you know, we've got 19 records. And if you look at the emails, now you can see that it's got Edgecast. It's got my Verizon Digital Media. It's got my Hotmail. It's got my Yahoo. It's got my original Comcast. And then it's even got the Edge.io one. So it's now tied and even my old Highwinds one. So it knows my entire work history. What's interesting is, I think if I remember correctly, it actually never gets my phone number. Yeah, it's never gotten my phone number. I don't understand that because I'm sure it's leaked everywhere, but it's not in there. So you can see how that information gets, contained. And yeah, there is some passwords on here. They're all old and they're long gone. But anyways, you can see how that information got tied and pulled together just from an ID. So it's taking a holistic view of me, and it's saying from this email, what other emails might be associated with it, and it's taking that data and it's matching it up. It's pretty crazy. Excellent question. I don't think it does at this point. Oh yeah, it does. No, it doesn't. It does not. I don't think, other than maybe username, using my username. Yeah, you definitely can. The other thing that you can do, like all of us are, like, I think everyone in here probably has their social security on the internet by now. So you can also check your social security and find out how and where it is. If you haven't frozen your credit, you need to really go freeze your credit. Just make sure that you do that. It's free from all three of the services. Set up an account and freeze it. You can always unfreeze it. It takes only 30 minutes for them to unfreeze it. So I think that's it. Anyone have any other questions? Go for it. We've had nothing but weird. We're good.
You know, we put a password in Unix and Linux and all different forms, and it's hashed in a standard way. So actually, looking at a password hash is as effective as looking at the password.
Yes, and in technically, when we're doing password matching, we're password matching on the hash. That's all we're. Also, by the way, because we do get credit card data, all of that we keep an encrypted, like a very high encrypted hash, but we can provide like last four and like expiration date to like say a credit card vendor to find out if one of their credit cards has been compromised.
How would you define acceptable use case of credit card?
Don't ask me, I'm not legal. But good question. But we don't really hold them, right? They're all encrypted. Well, I mean, you still have to be PCI level 1 certified, right? So
It's hashed.
it's all hashed though. It's not the actual credit card number. Yeah. Additionally, like for even crazier. So normally what we do for our encrypted, for that kind of data, we call it SIP or Vela, sorry. For that type of data, we do the first four, last four, and that's in the expiration, and that's it. We don't carry any of the center. None of the rest of it is in there. We don't carry the rest of it. And then if we're doing it for like say Australia, which has a much stricter requirement, it's only the last four and the expiration date. The only time that might change is something like gift cards, because sometimes gift cards have weird numbers. Like I've worked with a large company right now where we're trying to pull down a gift card fraud that's happening, and we're looking at some of the investigative data and trying to figure that out from the hash is like, oh, this is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Big,
No, hashed, the
yeah. Any other crazy questions? Well, then one other thing I will recommend, if you are looking for work, we are still hiring. So go to SpyCloud.com and check. We have some positions that are in Austin, Texas specifically. So if they say Austin or Dallas area in say remote, understand that's remote in that region. We found that out, right, Alex? But if it's just straight up remote, that's fully remote. They're a great company. They do one thing, which is to get officially hired, you cannot officially become an employee until you show up at the office. Yes, DPRK is a real thing. So you can't do that. I will show, actually, you know what? We'll show one more thing real quick.
I know you said like domain validation, right? Even if they did like open an account with you guys, like really check your email, right? Do you have any other, I don't know, interesting stories or like ways to verify, like you're saying, is that why?
Yeah, so everything is like double and kind of in person, almost verified. It's why I travel a lot. So we don't want them, like if I'm doing an investigation for a company and it's getting into the kind of the weeds, we'll call it, then I'm going there. Because we need to make sure that everyone is on the up and up on what we're looking at and why we're looking at it. We don't want people, grabbing, information that they shouldn't. Correct. Yes, and it is, like I said, we've kept a major league low profile up until recently, primarily because we don't want the attention, right? Because hackers would probably just be drooling at the, like over a, bone, dog looking at a bone, a ribeye steak. The other thing, real quick on DPRK, can somebody give me a company they may have applied for recently? Anyone? Najib, you applied for anywhere recently?
Boeing.
Oh man, we'll see if Cloudflare's in here. Hold on. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to try to talk loud so you can all hear me. I'm going to look up careers. I'm going to look up. Let's see, Cloud. What is Cloudflare's career page? See open positions, and click one. Okay, so this would not work. You can't do this one easily. But for inauthentic users, when we were trying to find them the easiest possible way, it starts by looking at the job board. And why? Because this one's tougher. Oops, I should grab this. This one's tougher because it's just got Cloudflare in as a URL path, right? So it's job-boards.greenhouse.io. So this one's tougher to find an inauthentic worker trying to apply for Cloudflare. But how many of us have systems that are on Workday or SuccessFactors? Okay, so Workday puts in there, instead of job boards, it'll be your company name. So companyname.workday.com. So I can drop that into a Jupyter notebook and look for that specific request by end users coming in. Now, crazy enough, because we're really good at finding those kind of inauthentic users, we've already created a filtered subset for that data. So then you just pop that in, you go, okay, I've got 20 different people that have applied for these, we're applying for a job at XYZ Corporation. That's great. Now I can investigate and look at each one of them. That's not going outside of the company. That's investigators in-house on our side checking to see what's going on. And if we find one that's got like multiple logins for different companies and in corporate accounts, and then we see that, remember that aspect ratio? Then we see that aspect ratio. Now we're like going, okay, this is definitely somebody not on the up and up. And then we reach back out to the company that is already paying us and talking to us about monitoring their employees or their authentic employees, because they generally have us run a report every once in a while just to see. They don't get access to it. We're looking and we can say we didn't find squat, which a lot of time we don't. But if we do, we then can say, hey, this is a person. We found them on LinkedIn. They still says they're an employee of yours. This is their login, your email. Are they still an employee? Well, yes. Okay. Well, we've also found them logging into ABC company and WXYZ company. And they are all located, they happen to also be located in Pakistan after we've, reversed their IP from or found their VPN. So now they're like, okay, now they need to have a talk to see if that's, that individual really is inauthentic. That's where you get the whole, can you put your hand in front of your face on the camera, Zoom camera?
Do you get any AI twins, AI agents? I've noticed it seems like LinkedIn, maybe a third of the people on LinkedIn don't exist.
Yeah. And what's more interesting is the inauthentic users are scanning constantly LinkedIn for people in job roles that they want to take, and then they clone their entire job history and put it on under a different name and even use their photo, which is crazy because we can see the photo, like the link to the link, the URL and the profile. Then you do that, and then you do an image search on the picture, and you find it associated with 4 other LinkedIn profiles. You're like, well, that ain't good.
Fake LinkedIn stuff, which is a large percentage of them. I find this interesting. When you look at actually their history, what they've accomplished, you'll not find a single word in there of an accomplishment, but you find words like 20 years experience building artificial intelligence using, whatever. And it's so absurd. My respect for LinkedIn is kind of dropped.
Trust me, when I was first getting started, and I know Tin, Najib, and all these guys, and everyone probably here, when you were first starting out, I remember when JavaScript became the new norm, and it was brand spanking new, and there was companies saying, you need 10 years of experience. It just came out this year. How are you getting 10 years experience? I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. We've all seen that, right? Where it's like, Yes, you must be an expert in, ChatGPT version 4. You must have 10 years experience. It's kind of crazy. Anyone else? All right, guys.